Hey guys, Luke here in the studio, podcast studio, and today we have Mark joining us. How you doing today?
Good.
Cool. So we'll jump right into it. Today I think we wanted to do a designated podcast just for our yardage formats, right?
Yep.
We'll jump into those. We got 3 yardage formats, and then I think we also wanted to touch up a little bit on our windage turrets that we sell. In our episode on custom turrets, if you guys have listened or not, we did touch up on the yardage formats.
Briefly, yeah.
Very briefly. So I think today, again, we'll do a designated podcast on that. So let's jump in. With that said, just kind of give us the name of the 3 different yardage formats we offer.
So here at Kenton Industries, we offer 3 different yardage formats. The first one we call the speed dial.
Okay.
Second one's the LR Hunter, stands for long range hunting. And the third one is our military yardage format.
Cool. So yeah, we'll jump in each one of them. This is a big question we get when we're taking orders, both online or over the phone. They're always asking which yardage format's best for me, right? In my shooting situation, whether they're doing precision shooting or whether they're doing hunting. So with that said, let's first talk about zero distance, right? What do most guys zero at, and what's the best zero distance for their situation? What's the most common, and what do we recommend?
I say the most common zero range is going to be 200 yards because you've got so many modern cartridges that are very efficient. And the difference between a 1 and 200 yard zero is really nominal. Mm-hmm. So we generally recommend 200 yard zero no matter which format you're starting with.
And typically on most calibers out there, the drop distance between a 1 and 2 is very minimal. So starting with a 200 yard zero is going to be a big benefit of getting a lot more distance, or I shouldn't say a lot, but some more distance on the max distance on the turret, right?
You get a bit more distance on the turret no matter which format you choose from. But also you're just turning the turret that much less because most of your shooting is going to be anyway 300, 400, 500 yards. You might start a little farther out and less dialing. You're saving yourself 6 to 8 clicks of dialing.
Okay, yeah. So speed dial format, long range hunter, military. You just mentioned those. So let's dive right into it. Speed dial format. Define it for me.
So the speed dial format was designed to keep things real simple, and we set it up for one turn of the turret, and the maximum distance for a speed dial format varies on the scope you're using and the cartridge or caliber you're shooting. Okay. So for example, if you've got a basic scope with 15 minutes of angle per turn, that's 60 quarter-inch clicks basically. Mid-range cartridge like your 30-06, 308 hunting rifle, you're looking at with a 200 yard zero, you're going to get about 5 to 550 yards. Okay. That's plenty good for a lot of guys, and so they would be steered into purchasing the speed dial format for that kind of cartridge. Okay.
So it's a 1 rotation. What's the benefit of going with the speed dial format?
Well, the one benefit I like, and a lot of older guys, is you got larger numbers. That are thicker, wider, easier to see. And the simplicity of just one turn it helps too, as we talk about the other formats. But the speed dial is just popular for that, again, moderate distance shooting, low light, aging eyes. That's probably why most guys would order it.
So when you're out in the field hunting and you don't have a ton of time, the speed dial format might be the best option for you because it's quick and easy to read with the large visible numbers, right?
Yes, they're larger, easier to dial in, whether it's low light or whether it's just a rapid dialing in. You can line up those numbers with your elevation shaft indicator much quicker.
Okay, so typically on the scope, you're really never going to see, obviously depends, as you said, on caliber and the scope itself, but you're really going to never see more than to 600 to 800 yards, right? You're never going to really see more than that on a speed dial format. Is that correct?
Yeah, but if you look at all the scopes out there and sort of take the bell-shaped curve average of, say, 20 minutes of angle on a scope, you're looking at 600 to 800 yards would be a safe number. As far as a maximum distance in one turn on most scopes with most calibers.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's jump into long range hunter format. This is our second yardage format we offer. It's probably just as popular as speed dial, right? You'd say?
Yeah, they're all going to be equally popular. Just kind of the needs of the customer. Okay. So the long range hunter format is generally a 2-tier which corresponds to 2 turns of the turret. So let's say you sight your gun at 200 yards. The first tier of yardage increments might go to, let's say, 600 yards on a typical scope. And then that second tier of numbers will correspond to the second turn of the turret. So it will start at 650 yards for that second turn, second tier, and let's say it goes out to 1,000 yards.
Okay. Yeah, let's use this Swarovski as an example here, and we'll throw up photos for you on the video as you can see now. But so in this example, we got what, 1 to, I think, 550 yards there. This is Swarovski Z3, and this is our aftermarket sleeve turret. Swarovski comes out of the box with those 3 dots representing different yardages. But with that said, what are we looking at here in this example?
Right. So this example here actually has 100 yard zero. We got 550 and just shy of 1 turn.
Okay.
So again, that corresponds to the first turn, first turret, or first row of numbers. The second tier, which corresponds to the second tier of yardage increments, is we set this guy up from 600 yards to 900.
Okay.
So just shy of 1,000 yards. That might be maybe because he did 100 yard zero versus 2, or just happened to be the ballistics of the cartridge. But this is a nice example for guys that want to get beyond that 500-600. They want to perhaps work their way up to target shooting or hunting out to 900 to 1,000 yards.
So we both know that this scope doesn't have 25 MOA per turn, but a scope that did, like for example, PSC Gen 2 Vortex, that would get an extra 200-300 yards out of it, right?
Oh yeah. Even a moderate cartridge with 25 MOA, you're looking at 1,000 yards, no problem. In a caliber such as a Magnum, your 7 millimeter or 7 PRC, you're talking probably 12 to 1,500 yards.
Yeah. Cool. And then those of you that, run your own dope and field data, you certainly know the MOA mils or clicks that needed per yardage. So, provide that to us and we'll match it on the scope of your choice with the turret. So with that said, you'll know your max distance. And then with that said too, if you're calling in the order, you're more than welcome to ask us as you're placing the order, what's going to be my max distance, and we'll be able to tell you on the spot over the phone roughly what you'll be getting, whether you do decide to go with the speed dial format or the long range hunter. So that's something to keep in mind. Military format, what's that? So
the military format is basically like the long range hunter format. It's a multi-tier system of yardage, but we retain the factory MOA or factory mill scale. It's a smaller scale. It's moved to the bottom edge of the knob. And then we put the yardage above that. The 2 tiers of yardage would be above the MOA or mill scale. And obviously yardage is marked at the appropriate amount of MOA or mils.
So it's really the best of both worlds, because not only are you getting the yardage, the fully customized yardage for that load and environment, but you're still being able to utilize, as you said, the scale on the very bottom of the turret. And that's typically where we put it, right, in the very bottom.
Right. And we did call it the military format because it's just that a lot of guys that are tactical shooters like to retain the MOA for various reasons, the one you mentioned as well as others. And but they do want that yardage format above for their main load, and it's just kind of worked out. It's again, all 3, as I stated before, equally popular. Just the needs and the desire of what the customer wants. Okay.
Does size of the turret play? Is the size of the turret one of the factors in deciding which yardage format to choose? Because as we know, there's a lot of different sizes of turrets out in the market. You got something that's real small, 1/8 of an inch, and then you got something that's over an inch. Is that something that the customer should keep in mind when they're deciding which format to choose?
Yeah, I would say, if you have a dust cap cover scope, and we're able to provide a custom turret or ballistic strip for that particular model, and you're really not shooting past 500 or 600 yards in reality, I'd go with the speed dial.
Yeah.
Because we don't have much vertical real estate on that turret, so go ahead and with the speed dial, so you have a decent sized number, generally larger than what the factory marks on there. And this way you can easily see the numbers. If you've got really young eyes and your desire is to get out to that 800,000 yard shooting, then go ahead and order the 2-tier LR100. Just keep in mind the numbers at that point would probably be a little bit smaller than what the factory laser mark knob was on, because you're double tiering it versus just one row of MOA.
Yeah, and then you mentioned it. Every format out of the three comes in 50-yard increments.
Right. So yeah, they're all 50-yard increments, but you have all the clicks in between, so you can obviously fine tune the shot. If you've got, let's say, a 525-yard shot per your laser rangefinder, you obviously dial halfway between the 500 and 550-yard mark on the turret.
Okay, yeah, easy enough. Cool. Well, that's kind of a quick rundown of our different yardage formats. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we move on to the windage turret?
No, just when you want to, if you're going to call the order in, or even before you order online yourself, just think about, what do I want to do with this particular rifle and the scope that's on there? Do I want to, never really shoot past 500-600? Then that's one approach. If it's definitely a long range hunting rig, or a long range target rig, and maybe 1,000, 1,200 yards is your desire or more, then you lean towards the yellow hunter or the military format.
Yeah, that's usually the question that our sales guys will ask when someone calls in and says, which yardage formats can be the best for me? Usually our question is going to be, okay, how far are you looking to shoot?
Yeah, that was always my question in the beginning when I was taking calls. I'd say, sir, what's your desired maximum range?
Desired maximum range.
And then I'd go with the caliber. Is that a realistic range? And then what scope do you have? Because especially back in the early days, there was a lot of limited travel on some of these scopes, which we learned over time. Having the scopes in our possession, we would have those meetings where we knew the internal maximum adjustment of a scope. So sometimes a customer would say, well, I want this distance with this scope, and we knew off top of our head that was not realistic because of the either caliber they're shooting or most likely the scope they had.
With that said, too, magnification, right? If you're getting a 3-9, first of all, typically they're not going to have large turrets, but there's really no reason to choose a long-range hunter format on like a 3-9, for example, right?
Yeah, I mean,
your magnification's pretty limited for that real far distance that a long-range hunter would give you, generally.
Yeah.
Something to think about, right?
Right. Yeah, 9 power, shooting out to 1,200 yards is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Some guys do it, and if you have a very small reticle, very thin lines, you could do it. Guys will argue that. But in general, yeah, you're going to want a lot more magnification if you're shooting past 800, 1,000, 1,200 yards for sure.
Cool. Well, the next thing we wanted to cover in this podcast, and a lot of you guys probably don't even know about the this product we offer in addition to our elevation dials, is the Custom Windage Turret. Generally, on every single scope, you're going to get, of course, your elevation adjustment, your up and down vertical, and then you're also going to get your horizontal, your windage adjustment. So they are going to come in factory MOA or mills, but what we do here at Kenton over the many years is we do convert that to a yardage windage turret. And we've had loyal customers over the years that have either added the windage turret right to the package as they're getting ready to check out, or they'll come back to us because they love the elevation turret, and then they will get that windage dial. So for guys that really don't know how it works, kind of explain to us how it works and why it's a benefit to have.
Okay, so the windage turrets are set for a 10 mile an hour, 90-degree crosswind, and they're marked in 100-yard increments. The windage knob is adjustable for different crosswind speeds and different angles, and we do give you a cheat sheet to adjust for that. The yardage increments go in both directions for left wind compensation and right wind compensation, and they are complementing basically the elevation turrets. So whatever specs the elevation turret were made, obviously the windage is for that particular load.
Okay.
And reason why we only do the 100-yard increments, plus you have all the clicks in between to fine tune it, but the reason is we don't do the 50-yard increments as well because you just don't have that much adjustment in windage like you do with elevation
running out
drop.
of real estate.
Well, not the real estate, it's just the elevation drop. So obviously out to 800 yards, let's say you need 24 minutes of angle for a particular cartridge. You're not going to need 24 minutes in windage. You're going to need like 1/4 of that or something. So your numbers are going to be pretty close together. So you're going to have your 0 and the 100, 200, all the way to say 500 for left or 800 yards for left wind compensation. The other half a turn the other direction of the windage knob will go 800 for the right wind compensation.
So let's give a really basic fundamental example for the customer, and correct me if I'm wrong here. If I'm shooting, let's say, at 500 yards and I have a 90-degree, 10-mile-an-hour crosswind coming from the right side, shooting at 500 yards, I'm simply going to dial to the 5 mark on the windage turret.
Yeah, you dial always into the wind, kind of think of a lineman on a football team. The defensive lineman is pushing back the opponent, right? So you're pushing the wind back. So you dial into the wind. And like you said, 500 yards is a 500 dial. If it happens to be a 5-mile-an-hour crosswind coming from that direction, you'd half value. So it'd be 250, just basic math in your head.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be halfway between the 200 and 300 yard mark and so on.
Yeah.
And you can double that up. So if there's a 20-mile-an-hour crosswind, say at 400 yards, you would double to 800 on the turret. So it's very simple math, simple adjustments. And once you get into a little bit more technical shooting, like the 45-degree angle, that's 75% value of what you're dialing in.
Okay.
And like I said, there's a chart or instruction sheet that we give you to start memorizing those basic adjustments that you can do quickly in the field.
And again, they are fully customized, so we take into account your ballistics, your caliber, your bullet elevation, temperature, and so on. Those are calculated on our proprietary ballistic program into the windage turret as well, right?
And yeah, and when we developed this, I remember how much fun it was, because there were times in the beginning you would just look at that windage knob and kind of think, on which direction do I go? How many minutes? Maybe I'll just do a bit of holdover with my crosshair. But having those numbers right in front of you in both directions with just clean markings is so much easier. You almost want to always dial, even for a little bit of wind, you're going to dial. You don't want to do any kind of a hold with that main crosser. You want to be able to dial in the wind and put that crosser right in the center target.
Cool, great. Well, I hope that kind of helps answer any questions you guys have. We're always happy to talk about our product and educate our customers, those of you who already know about it, those of you that are brand new shooters. So if you have any questions, feel free to call or email us. We're always happy to answer any questions. And then go ahead and get your windage out too. So we're excited about that. And I think we covered pretty good podcast today, right?
Yeah, if you have any questions before the order, you can just go on the chat, right?
Oh yeah, we got live chat, we got again emails, calls, and then we also actually have an FAQ page too on our website that breaks down kind of everything we talked about today. So it was good seeing you guys, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.